Welcome back to another War of the Visions video. Today we're going to be taking a look at 3 new units that will be spread across several banners, all coming out tomorrow, and among them is Glaciela, who is without any doubt the most hyped unit I've seen in the comment section of any of my videos. She is who everyone is excited for, who everyone is saving for, but we've also got Lasswell coming out, and then we have a new MR unit as well, Loreila, who I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name, but we have to decide if Glaciela is really all she's made out to be, or maybe you're sleeping on Lasswell. So we'll get into that and kind of compare everybody in the video. So this video is coming out a little bit later than I would have liked. It's been pretty busy here, and if you're up to date on my story with all the flood damage, etc., I actually had to pack up my entire apartment to get new carpets in, but they're in, and things are starting to come together around Mysidia Central over here. So things are overall good, but work's also been quite busy. So there's been a downturn in videos, but I've got oodles of footage of PvP, and I've got other things planned. So just as soon as I find time to edit and do a little bit of voice overs, we're gonna have a lot more videos on the way. So let's talk about these units. First up is gonna be Loreila, who is a MR wind unit. She is a ranger main job. She gets 2 jump, 3 move, so that's nice to have that extra jump. And then she also has the Viking and Knight sub jobs, which is kind of random and not necessarily that great. But let's take a look at her stats, and then we'll kind of talk about her skills and other things going on with her. So we can see her HP, it's in that Mustadio range. It's not necessarily a bad thing for a range unit, but her strength or attack going down here is quite low, and that is a really big deal. She gets crit rate, and you're going to see soon that that's her best quality, is that she gets all of this crit rate, and her dexterity is also really high, which is also part of being able to hit with a critical. And if you hit with a critical, you get more AP, and then you can use more skills. That's all really cool. Her luck though is a lot lower, and her agility is super low, even for an MR and this type of unit, kind of like a DPS range unit. Very low agility. She gets 2 defense from Knight, but it's just kind of not needed. Like, she's not meant to take a lot of damage. She's meant to stay out of harm's way and shoot from the back, so that's kind of weird. She gets a little bit of agility from the board, and that's going to help out a bit, but it's still not ideal, like that her agility is so low. I definitely want her to have more agility. Okay, so let's take a look at her kit, and then we'll make some comparisons. So first up, she gets your basic resistances here. So she's good against earth, weak against ice. A lot of ice units out there, that's a concern. Weak against slash, that's a big concern. Weak against pierce, but then she's strong against projectile and weak against magic. So again, none of that really matters, because again, she's just not supposed to take damage. She's supposed to stay out of the way. So I'm really not worried about any of that. And same thing with her status element resistances, is she shouldn't really be getting hit by that much, but having don't move as a resistance is obviously, that's fine. If we take a look at her TMR, it's a weapon like most MRs, and you can see that it can inflict Doom, which is pretty rad. I love Doom. I use Cleansing Strike with Delita, and people say, why don't you turn it off? So he uses Crush accessory instead. Well, I play a lot of sustain matches, and they go for a very long time, so Doom actually pays off a bunch. I've killed, I think, 3 Engelberts with Doom now, which is a lot of fun. So then you see that the overall, like the bow's okay. It's got accuracy, that's good. It's got pretty bad attack. So this isn't really like an outstanding TMR weapon, and you also get other units that are going to use bows but need magic, and this isn't going to help them either. So I don't really know that this is a TMR unless you're super hyped on bows or status effects that you'll want. But if you take a look at her master ability, that's pretty cool. 50 critical rate. She already gets 16 from her board. That's a lot of critical rate plus dexterity. Man, she's going to be a crit machine. She gets all the supports that you're expecting from these different jobs, which is fine. So she gets some accuracy from Ranger, she can get some more attack from the Viking, and then some missile resistance, which is kind of interesting. Again, maybe if you're in a duel with other missile resist teams, this is kind of interesting. But really, you just want the activation time, the missile attack increase, and the attack increase or the range increase. Like, this is pretty standard. Her counter, she's got the best counter in the game. She has reflex, that's amazing. So you definitely want to have that on for sure. You just want her to not get hit at all. And then for the main job, again, it's all your standard ranger skills. You've got sharpshoot, you've got your 2 charges, poison arrow, you have barrage. That's all really solid, but you don't have a TP skill on her main job, which is kind of a shame. You have to go into her sub skills in order to get that vigilance TP skill, and it's really not that much. So she needs to attack a lot to get her AP up, which is fine in a way that she can attack earlier. She's ranged, which is great. She's going to crit, she's going to get more AP, but it definitely is, it's nice to have that TP skill when you're closing down, and then vigilance is a pretty cool TP skill. So I think that, like, for the most part, you're going to be subbing this anyway, because you're going to just want the extra skills. You want the sharpshoot here, the 100% chance to hit. That's the most important skill for a ranger. It's instant cast. It's the way to go. So you're really just going to be using ranger sub, I think. I don't think you want to use knight or Viking. You don't want to get close to the enemy. So it is nice for her to have other damage types, but I mean, really, she's not going to be using them. Her passives are increasing projectile damage, so you're going to be full on ranger with her. She does get some cool stuff. In terms of TP skills, she'll get more. Here she can get some defense and some attack and some bravery, all this kind of stuff. But I mean, again, I really don't think that you're going to be using these with the knight. Again, you're going to get some breaks and you'll get some different buffs, but it's not important. So this is what is important, is their comparisons. And yes, she's an MR. Yes, these are 2 URs. But it's important to look at that the strength difference is just really, really high. Lucia gets more defense penetration as well, and Frederica gets a lot more agility. Both of them get a lot more agility. So really, when you're looking at this, there's just, and more HP, better resistances. I really don't think that Loreila has very much going for her at all. So just a little hint for the end of the video, but she's probably a pass. Okay, so Lasswell is probably the most interesting unit to me on this banner, because he actually has a ton going for him, and he's got some things that he does better than Glaciela does, but we will talk about how good Glaciela is as well. So he's got the 3 move and the 1 jump, and he has his Knight of Grandshelt job, Samurai, and then Dragoon. So he gets a piercing attack that is really, really solid. He's got great flexibility with armor. That's really solid. Awesome. When you look at his HP, it's fine. His strength is quite high. It's really up there in terms of comparisons. And then he also gets some crit rate. His dexterity and luck are both respectable, if not outstanding, and his agility is pretty good too. So he's got a lot going on. He doesn't get extra defense or spirit. He's definitely a damage dealer, and he's got really, I want to say, just really across the board solid stats and a high attack, so that's all really good. He's also going to get more luck from his master, or not his master ability, sorry, his board stats, and that's important because he is a samurai as well, so he can do some evasion stuff if you need. His resistances are pretty standard. Slash resist is always welcome. Projectile resistance is nice. Weak to magic, weak to pierce. He gets the blind resistance and the slow resistance and a little bit of charm resistance, which is very, very nice. His TMR, it's armor, some defense, accuracy, I like that. HP, pretty nice. And then increase your critical rate for the skill. That's not great. This doesn't jump out to me at all. It's gonna be fine. Like, the one thing to consider is if you're a new player, getting a unit like this on banner is your best chance to max somebody if you've been saving. So any TMR is going to be a welcome TMR, and this is definitely a welcome TMR for a lot of people. But if you're in the position that I'm in, where I've got starting to accumulate TMRs, this kind of doesn't really do enough for me to be excited about it. Which means you could leave him at level 89, so that's good. His master ability is also very good. He gets accuracy and slash attack. Those are both good. Those are both nice. Okay, support skills. He can get some attacks, just straight attack from his Grandshelt Knight, and then he can also get defense penetration up to 40, which is really, really nice. And we're going to talk more about defense penetration later on, so I'll save all the explanations for there. But that skill also upgrades one of his attack skills, which again we'll talk about in just a second here. He's going to get the jump +1 and HP level 1 up level 1 from Dragoon, and then he'll get the Blade Soul from Samurai. I think that you're probably going to just use his two Knight of Grandshelt skills here, although you might use the Samurai one if you're doing an evade comp, and you might do the jump one for very specific maps, but overall I think you'll just use the Knight of Grandshelt. So his counter abilities, they're all pretty standard. The Dragoon one is obviously really solid because it heals you. The Samurai one is nice to increase your evasion rate. I think there's, again, something for everybody here, depending on what you want to do. Although I don't think you necessarily want to do the slash counter. I think you want the different type of damage there with the pierce damage. Okay, so looking at his main skills, he's got a lot, but he doesn't have a lot of range. That's something that you have to keep in mind here. He has a self buff that is going to give him another 20 defense penetration and give him a boatload of attack. Think about it like charge, because it only lasts for 1 turn. So he needs to use that and then close someone down, but he's got 3 move and he doesn't have a lot of range. So I'm thinking that this might be like charge, where it gets wasted a lot, so that's something to consider. And he only gets 2 casts of it, and once he's up in the mix, he's going to be fighting most of the time, so you really do want to have some sort of TMR skill that will give him more TP, and obviously Jesus Bells are going to come to mind there, but he gets some very good short range attacks. He gets some decrease of ice resistance, again very good in ice parties, and then he gets a lot of just big damage attacks, but you can see that nothing really extends past a couple of spaces of range. That upgrade there, you can see it's going to increase that damage of that skill all the way to 250% potency, which is huge. And then by hit chance set to 30%, I don't think that's 30% to hit, it's adding 30% to the chance to hit. It increases his accuracy of that skill, so that's really solid. He does also get like a defensive barrier here, so reduces damage taken for 1 time, and it's a 40 TP skill. So you might want him to use that more than anything to get that 20 AP from using it, and depending on if he ever like gets to use that other buff, you can play it on and off and see what works for you. He doesn't get a ton on his sub job, but he does get a really cool AoE that hits. It's a multi-hit, 2 hits, and AoE. So that's very nice. That's really awesome when he aims for like somebody and he's going to take 2 hits of hate off of a tank and then maybe also hit somebody else. That's really solid when you're going in for like a comp where you have like Kilthe and Ayaka and like a wall all bunching together. You can kind of get all of them in that one area, which is really nice. And then he has a Dispel all debuffs and haste, and I'm really curious how he uses that, or if he even uses that. That's totally going to reserve my opinion of it, although I think that is really going to be interesting. It says dispel all debuffs, but I think it's buffs is what's supposed to be there, because I think you use it on an opponent, as far as I'm aware, because otherwise I think that's crazy to, or it doesn't really make any sense if it gives haste. I don't know, I'm out of control now. I don't know what I'm saying. Someone let me know if they have a proper idea of what that does. Looking at Samurai, I'm not going to spend a ton of time looking at sub jobs today because we just already know what all of these do. He gets evasion stuff, he gets better range in a way. Like Hien is going to be a really cheap range skill that he can use. I definitely see people using Samurai for Hien and for the evasion side. And then for Dragoon, he's going to get, I really should have looked up whether this is the horizontal or the vertical jump, but he gets one of those, and that's fine. I mean, I hope it's horizontal. I think that's probably more relevant, although you never know. And oh no, that would have to be horizontal. So I mean, like I would use this if you're really coming up against a lot of slash resist. or if you're playing manually. But I don't think otherwise you're going to use it, because he gets slash attack up in his master ability. You're going to be building around slash attack, so you're going to want to use your slash attack. So this is definitely going to be not for every Lasswell. This is not going to be a typical build for Lasswell to use Dragoon, but I do think that there are some applications for it. Okay, and then he gets a limit burst that does a bunch of damage. It's an AoE, and it increases his defense penetration. So he can get a lot of defense penetration, which is super important. Very, very useful for busting down tanks. The biggest thing is that he has to get over to the tanks, accumulate the AP, and then actually start hitting them. But once he does, that's pretty exciting. Okay, so we're going to talk about Glaciela, and I know you're thinking I usually do a comparison, but I'm going to actually wait till the very end to do some comparisons, and then we're going to kind of put it all together and decide whether or not we should pull in these units. Oh, I'm looking at the length of this video, and I wish I had split it up, but I just have not had time to work on content that much, so it's all coming together into one video. So Glaciela is a UR water unit. She's going to be on a banner with Loreila, and Lasswell will be on his own banner, which will be an FFBE banner, so that's something to look forward to. And she's going to have her own unique job, Valkyrie, and then also Monk and Ninja. So she's going to get piercing, slashing, and the fist attacks. She can use armor, helm, accessory, all pretty neat. She's got good HP, decent strength, she got a little crit rate, and then good dexterity, good luck, okay agility. So very nice stat line across the board here. The only spot that you want a little bit more is the agility. Well, and guess what? We got something for you on that front. But first, we have increased attack 20%. So we're already going to go up higher. And I always thought, like, why do we have increased attack 20%? And I think it's a way of balancing characters to have like these things on the board rather than just giving them the attack. Because then if you put something like Ifrit on, that's going to give more attack scaling off her base attack, whereas when you separate her attack into two spots, into this board stat and then into her actual unit stat, you kind of control how much she's getting from different sources like skills, like cards and stuff like that. So I guess that's why they do this, to kind of distribute her stats a bit, but it's still kind of weird. All right, resistances, weak to lightning is jumping out off the board there because everybody loves Orlando. But she gets slash resist, she gets pierce resist, which is really nice. And she actually gets another 10% slash resist from her master ability. She has sleep resist, which is fine, confusion resist, and then I'm not sure what that one is. I forgot to look that up. That's my bad. Again, it's just been so busy. But then she's weak to magic and projectile, and we do see a lot of projectile units, so that's gonna be a really interesting one. And again, another unit that we see with projectile is Frederica. Yeah, she's lightning, and Glaciela's weak to lightning. Oh no, what are we gonna do? We're gonna figure that out. So White Wolf's armor, that's a good TMR. Look at that. HP, defense, spirit, and accuracy, and a good ability. It restores AP and gives you slash resist. It's a lot of text on a TMR, and all of it is positive. It's all things that I like to read, so that's a big thumbs up for me. If you're going to be building her and you're the type of person that likes to 89 units, this might be a unit to 99. And then looking at her master ability, yeah, we talked about the slash resist, but she's going to get even more attack from her master ability. So all of a sudden we're getting up into that Lasswell area of like the 360, whatever, or higher. I didn't actually do the math on that. Okay, support skills. She's going to get she's going to get one unique skill from her Valkyrie job, and it's going to increase agility. So we're just solving all of her, well, not like problems. So she's going to get more agility, she's going to get pierce attack, and you can also give her strike attack if you want with the strike mastery. She gets more agility from Shadowrunner. She can get Shukichi for the movement fixing, and then HP up, etc. All of these are worth looking at. I think you're probably going to go with Jab Mastery and Chikuchi, or Jab Mastery and Shadow Runner. I think those are all really solid combinations to just get your damage and agility up there so she can go out and start wrecking some people. Her counter ability, she gets a unique one from her job, which is going to actually decrease the attack of the person it hits. That's very, very cool. If she can take a couple of blows and do that to her attackers, that's definitely very nice. And it's also a piercing counter, which is awesome. And then she just gets the fist counter and the poison barb. The fist counter is like worth looking at just because it's a different type of damage. And then the poison barb, I've heard it's good. I have not tried it yet, but I have heard that it's a really solid skill. Although it does have to proc, as in happen, and then that poison actually has to hit. So it's 2 areas of chance before something happens. Looking at her main job, she gets a bunch of really nice skills. So Javelin Claw is going to be a long range attack, similar to Hien. She gets a buff that's going to give her 50 defense penetration and then 25 pierce attack. That's very, very important, and it's a good TP cost as well. She gets a 100% hit attack as well. That's pretty strong. She gets a move and strike AoE. And then she gets a triple hit piercing. So she can chain, she can 100% hit evade, she can defense penetrate, she can hit from range, she can just do literally everything. And it's all on her main job. This goes against like all the balance that you think you might, oh, well, let's split up her job so that there's not too much in one kit and you have to be a little more selective. Nope, they put it all on the main one. And if you want to put her sub on, you're going to get even more goodness. You'll get multiple AoEs that will hit the people around her, and there's even some chance of paralysis there too. Man, a lot going on. Okay, looking at her monk, she's going to get Store, which is a really, really powerful buff, especially if the AI gets fixed on that. And then otherwise, you just have a bunch of strike attacks, and you're going to use this if people are heavily weak to strike attacks, but you already have Pierce, which a lot of people are weak to, so this is kind of a hat on a hat for her. She didn't really need this attack, although I think it's always welcome to have these alternate attack types and these different options, and it's always cool for tower, but she already was a unique attack type that people aren't always ready for, so this is fine. Ninja, there's not a lot that you're gonna go for here, if I'm being honest with you, at least I think, because all of her abilities on her other job do this better. Again, you might do this for slashing, but otherwise, and the other one would be Suton, would be your non damage type ability. I think you would use that as well, but otherwise, I wouldn't really think about Ninja Job. And then her limit burst is going to be, it's a short range, but it can increase your maximum damage, which is very, very cool. That could be super relevant for a big attack on a raid boss or something like that. Okay, so let's do some comparisons with some other units. So the first one I wanted to make was with Lasswell, because they are both on the same area, they're not on the same banner, but they're coming up together, and I wanted to kind of show them side by side. So when you look at them, you can see their attack is similar, their strength ends up being similar, you know, they both get crit rate, they both have okay luck and dex. Glaciela is better in that regard, and they both don't have added defense or anything, so they're honestly very similar. Glaciela edges Lasswell out a little bit in terms of dexterity and luck, but then Glaciela gets 3 different attack types. She gets range, she gets literally everything. You can really see why she's so powerful. The one thing that she doesn't, that is kind of against her, is that she's water, and I wouldn't even hold that against her, but you could consider it, that there's just so many Orlandos out there that you want to watch out for them. But she gets stacked with so much slash resist that you could just pile on a ton more slash resist and then still have her perform well against Orlando, so that's really awesome. So we'll also take a look at Stern, and I'm using Stern because he's just super powerful. He's got good stats, but he's a total glass cannon, and you can see there that he's still got higher strength. He still has like really solid dexterity and luck, agility, all of that type of that's something I didn't mention for Lasswell. He's got good agility, but you can see that the way these Lasswell and Glaciela, they're not losing very much off of Stern in terms of attack and other stats, but they're gaining so much more in the diversity of their kit and their HP. And Stern does have multiple damage types as well, so but it just really shows how good these new units are, that they have so much going for them. Another comparison that we can make is with Ruin Stern, and again I'm doing this because he recently came out, and he also has some defense break and penetration. So you can see that they're actually stronger than he is, but they don't have nearly as many buffs, debuffs, and things that he has going on for him. But Lasswell and Glaciela both have multiple damage types, so you can see again that these are all fairly comparable units. Ruin Stern just has a pretty incredible kit in terms of damage output and the ability to slice through people. And then I wanted to make one more comparison, and that is Orlandeau. So Orlandeau has a little bit more tankiness than both of these units, but he's actually weaker than them both, and his defense breaking abilities are actually pale in comparison to the defense penetration that Lasswell and Glaciela get. So they're kind of upgrading him in that regard as well as just having some pretty well-rounded stats overall. So they really are just both really solid units. I think you could pull for Lasswell or Glaciela, and you're going to be very, very happy with yourself. The final thing I wanted to talk about is defense, piercing, and break. So piercing, the way that works is that you basically ignore that amount of defense. So if a Mont has 50 defense and you have defense penetration 40, it's like you're going to be hitting a Mont with only 10 defense. And if that Mont has 30 defense and you hit him with defense penetration 40, you're going to be hitting him like he has 0 defense. It doesn't go below 0 for defense penetration. However, defense break, like Orlandeau and Stern have, that's actually going to decrease their defense. It's going to last for a certain amount of time, and it can go into the negative. So for example, with Orlandeau, he has 25 defense break. So if that hits a Mont with 10 defense, that Mont is going to go down to negative 15 defense, and everybody else hitting that Mont is going to benefit from it. Whereas with the defense penetration, only the unit with it will benefit from that, which is why you see such a gigantic value on defense penetration compared to defense break. So looking at Lasswell, he has 3 different ways to get defense penetration, and one of them is just a passive skill, the Tranquil Detachment. That's absolutely incredible, just to have defense penetration on all of the time. That's just such a good skill. He can also self-buff his defense penetration, and his LB gives him defense penetration. So Glaciela actually gets a self buff, but I think I will have to go back. I think that actually applies. It's not. I shouldn't have written self buff there. She can give it to other people. And then Orlandeau, he's got defense break, but you can see defense break 25 compared to the defense penetration 50 that Glaciela gets. The Knight of Ruin Stern is super unique. He gets defense penetration 20 all of the time, but can also break defense 30, which is just a really big deal. And then Lucia is the one that gets the buff that she can give to people. That's my mistake. The Glaciela skill is a self buff. So Lucia gets a passive, just always has defense penetration 40, and then she gets a firing stance buff that can give everybody around her defense penetration 20. So those are really, really solid skills, and you can see that these units are all top meta units in Japan. They're all units that get used a lot, and this is undoubtedly something that is really important when you're judging future units. Look if they have defense, piercing, and break. That is something that will keep them relevant, because that is something they can use to kill anybody. and we can obviously put a lot more defense on people once we get stat stacking as well when that update comes. So it's definitely going to be an important skill. Whereas somebody like Delita, who is super powerful, has so many great skills, but will never be able to erase people's defense unless he has a TMR that gives him that skill, or somebody gives him a passive or a buff or something. So something to consider. Wow, that was a marathon video, and I'm gonna have to put timestamps in here for everybody because that was just so much longer than I wanted it to be. Again, I want to make different or separate videos for all this kind of stuff, but I'm doing this on the one night that I have free, and then I'm going back to work. So to recap, for Loreila, I don't think you should pull on her. I don't think she's worth pulling for an MR. She's not like any of your MR pluses. If you get her and you're interested in her, you can build her. Do not try to get her unless, again, personal choice, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. Lasswell and Glaciela are both incredible units. Glaciela is going to give you a bit of everything. She's going to be useful in PvE, in raids, in tower. She's going to be useful in PvP, in guild battle, and everything. She's just got every single type of skill, type of damage. She's got whatever you need for your team. She has it. Lasswell, he's got more restrictions. He doesn't have as much range. He doesn't have as much movement, but he gets a ton of defense pierce naturally, and he gets multiple attack types. He gets big time damage, and he can fit into some really good comps like evade. So he's definitely a really solid unit, and the fact that he has that defense penetration, it just means that he's going to be able to keep up as the meta progresses. So definitely a big thumbs up for both of them. And that's going to be it. That's literally it. I'm done. I'm out of here. But let me know in the comments if you plan to pull for either of these units or any of 3 of these units. And let me know if you get them too, because that'd be awesome. I'm not going to do any pulling on this round on my main account because I don't really have any Vizor left. But I hope that you have good luck on whoever you choose to pull for. And to all of you out there that have commented about Glaciela before, especially good luck to you guys. All right. See you next time.